Today we're going to talk about an event that happened 66 million years ago that scientists still can't explain. We know that there was life on Earth before the dinosaurs, and there was life after the asteroids. But what happened in between? What happened to the creatures that lived in the sea during the time of the dinosaurs? Where are they now? Why did they all die off? Well, it's not quite clear. It could be because of the asteroid, or it could be because of climate change, or maybe it was something else entirely. But we do know that there was a mass extinction at the end of the Cretaceous period, which was the last period of the Mesozoic era. And we also know that many groups of marine reptiles disappeared from Earth forever. So today we're going to take a look at some of those species and see why they may have died out. So let's start with the Plesiosauria. Plesiosaurs were among the largest marine reptiles of all time. Some were over 55 feet long and weighed over 17 tons. This one, named Elasmosaurus, was named by Edward Drinker Cope in 1866 and was a very popular exhibit at the Academy of Natural Sciences of Philadelphia. He named it after the Greek word elasmos, meaning shining light, because of its elegant neck. They had 4 large flippers connected to robust paddles on their front limbs, which they used to steer themselves through the water. And these elongated flippers meant that plesiosaurs couldn't drag themselves onto land, unlike other marine reptiles like turtles and ichthyosaurs. They probably gave birth to live babies in shallow water, just like modern whales and dolphins. Scientists think that plesiosaurs were well adapted for deep diving, and therefore may have preferred deeper, colder waters. And this may have been one of the reasons they went extinct. The end Cretaceous thermal maximum led to ocean temperatures rising rapidly, which would have been lethal to the plesiosaur eggs and offspring that needed those colder temperature ranges to survive. However, their adults may have survived for a while longer by migrating further into the colder poles, but they would have eventually perished too. Another reason is that plesiosaurs were apex predators, only eating other animals, and when the asteroid hit the Earth, it caused an underwater earthquake so powerful that it killed nearly every large animal near the impact site. So this would have included many plesiosaur species. Finally, the asteroid impact also caused massive amounts of debris to be thrown into the atmosphere, which blocked out the sun and caused darkness to cover the Earth for months or even years afterwards. And if the plesiosaurs were already suffering from decreasing temperatures and dwindling food sources, this would have been enough to drive them to extinction. Alright, moving on. Let's look at the Mosasaurs. These guys were huge. This one, named Tylosaurus proeger, was a gigantic beast that lived during the late Cretaceous period and reached lengths of up to 52 feet and weighed up to 33 tons. That's about the same size as today's sperm whale. In fact, the Mosasaurs is the reason that we now call this group of whales by this name, because the name Mosasaurus means beautiful lizard. The Mosasaurus was first discovered in 1817 by Dutch marines in a limestone quarry in Belgium, and was thought to be the biggest animal to ever exist until an even bigger whale was found. Or like the Plesiosaur, the Mosasaur was an aquatic reptile that spent its entire life in the ocean. It had a paddle tail and large dorsal fins for steering and maneuvering through the water, and was perfectly suited to its life in the sea. But their teeth weren't built for crushing bones, which tells us that they didn't eat mammals like today's killer whales. Instead, they probably ate fish and other marine reptiles like turtles. But there were also much smaller mosasaurs with teeth shaped for crushing, so they probably hunted prey on the seafloor. One of the possible reasons for their extinction is that they were just too big. Living in the ocean requires more energy than living on land, because you need to constantly move to get oxygen. And for such a large animal, this meant that the mosasaur required an enormous amount of food every day to survive. And with the death of many marine animals from the asteroid impact, there wouldn't have been enough food for such a giant. Another possible reason is that they were too specialized. Mosasaurs only ate meat and fish and didn't eat plants, and this would have been a problem for them because after the asteroid impact, the oceans became full of algae and plankton blooms, which blocked out the sun and killed off almost all the phytoplankton. With no light penetrating the surface, most of the animals that relied on phytoplankton to eat died off. And with no food, the mosasaur couldn't survive either. Next up, let's look at the ichthyosaurs. Ichthyosaurs were a diverse group of marine reptiles that lived for over 200 million years from the Triassic to the end of the Cretaceous. They had a streamlined body like a dolphin with a pointed head and a horizontal tail. And they were definitely built for life in the ocean. Unlike the previous two creatures, they were more closely related to land lizards, and were able to crawl onto land and lay eggs. Also, they were probably warm-blooded, which meant that they could maintain a constant body temperature no matter what the surrounding environment was. This would have allowed them to live in a wider range of habitats and made them more resistant to sudden changes in temperature. But even with these advantages, they disappeared along with most other marine animals at the end of the Cretaceous. There are two possible reasons why they died out. First, ichthyosaurs were viviparous, which means that they gave birth to live young instead of laying eggs. And this is different from most other reptiles which lay eggs. Now this might sound like a good thing, but in times of ecological chaos it can be a bad thing. Giving birth to live young requires a lot of energy and resources, and the mother has to find food for herself and her baby at the same time. If the mother dies before the baby is born, then the baby will die too. And with an asteroid flying towards the Earth, chances are that many pregnant ichthyosaurs died before their babies were born, and so their species died out. Second, it's possible that ichthyosaurs were simply outcompeted by sharks and bony fish. Sharks and fish were better adapted for the open ocean where most ichthyosaurs lived. And with the asteroid impact causing massive amounts of nutrients to rain down from the sky, this would have led to a bloom in their populations and a decrease in the ichthyosaur population. Or perhaps they were just in the wrong place at the right time. Now, don't forget that these three aren't the only ones. Many other groups of marine reptiles died out at the end of the Cretaceous, such as the sea turtles, the sauropod-like marine reptiles, and the ancient whale ancestors. And each of these groups had their own unique adaptations and reasons for going extinct. For example, sea turtles today are found in both fresh and salt water, and can live all over the world. But at the end of the Cretaceous, there were only two families of sea turtles, and they were only found in the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. And while we don't know exactly why they died out, it could be because of the drastic changes in sea level and temperature that occurred after the asteroid impact. Sea turtles need warm water to thrive, and they usually prefer shallow, protected areas close to land, like coral reefs and seagrass meadows. But at the end of the Cretaceous, the sea levels fell, which would have reduced the amount of shallow water habitat available for sea turtles. The water temperature also dropped, which would have made it harder for them to survive. Not only that, but the asteroid impact also caused a massive dust cloud to form, which blocked out the sun and caused darkness to cover the Earth for months or even years. This would have made it harder for sea turtles to find food and would have disrupted their ability to navigate and migrate. Additionally, the asteroid impact also caused massive amounts of debris to be thrown into the atmosphere, which blocked out the sun and caused darkness to cover the Earth for months or even years afterwards. This would have made it harder for sea turtles to find food and would have disrupted their ability to navigate and migrate. So it's possible that these changes in sea level, temperature, and sunlight were just too much for the sea turtles to handle, and they went extinct. All of these animals died out because they were too big, too small, too slow, too cold-blooded, or too specialized. But no matter what the reason, it's clear that the asteroid impact had a huge effect on life on Earth. And it's only by studying these creatures that we can hope to understand what life was like in the days of the dinosaurs. So there you go. You've made it to the end of another exciting episode. If you liked it, please make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. You never know when we might disappear, but hey, if that happens, you'll be prepared. Okay, thanks for watching. See ya.